What is the exact objective of the questionnaire? That should be very, very clear. On that basis only, you form the questionnaire. Try to use as simple language as possible, because if you are using some elite language, then the respondent may understand it in a different way. He has to just calculate 4,000 by 30,000 into 100, then whatever the amount comes, then he will have to write. Hello everyone, I am Purnima, faculty in the Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. In this session 6, let us have a further discussion on question types in a questionnaire. So in the previous session, we have studied about how the questionnaire format should be and what are the different types of questionnaires, whether it is structured, unstructured, quasi-structured, etc. And we also had a discussion on how the questionnaire should be, whether it should have clarity, whether it should be communicable, etc. Keeping all these things in mind, the next thing is, what are the questions to be asked? The questions asked can take two forms, that is restricted questions. Now, what are restricted questions? They are also called as the closed-ended ones that ask the respondent to make choices. That is yes or no, check items on a list, or select from multiple choice answers. So, for example, if you are asking about the educational qualification of any one of the respondent, then what are the various options you will have? So, whether it is SLC, PUC, degree, post-graduation, then master degree, PhD, doctorate. So, in this way, you will have a list of questions. So, from any of that, he can click. Suppose if he is a master degree, then he will click on master degree of any combination. It may be MBA, MCom or anything. So, when you are having this checklist items on the checklist, with the help of that, you will be able to collect the answers from him. Or regarding the age of that person, the date of birth also, sir, the date will be mentioned and then you will have to just select the year of birth. So, in this way, you will be able to collect the answers very easily and make a recording of them also very easily. So, restricted questions are easy to tabulate and compile. So, when you have these restricted questions, it will be easy for you to tabulate them and compile those questions. Then, next one is the unrestricted questions. So, they are open-ended and allow the respondent to share feelings and opinions that are important to them about the matter at hand. So, they are open-ended questions. So, unrestricted questions are open-ended questions. That means which does not contain any answer, and then the respondent is free to write whatever he wants into that particular question. Allow the respondent to share feelings and opinions that are important to them about the matter at hand. So, anything, whatever he feels about the product, he can just make a mention. So, unrestricted questions are not easy to tabulate and compile, but they allow respondents to reveal the depth of their emotions. So, these kind of open-ended questions, they will be quite hard to tabulate them, but then it will share the depth of the questionnaire. So, the respondents will be able to share the deepest emotions along in the questionnaire. So, if the objective is to compile data from all respondents, then sticking with restricted questions that are easily quantified is better. Suppose the researcher feels that he has to collect information from all the respondents, then the best thing is to have restricted questions where it will be easy to tabulate and then compile. But then if he goes in for this unrestricted questions, then it will be hard for him to just compile all the answers and analyze the data. If degree of emotions or depth of sentiment are to be studied, then develop a scale to quantify those feelings. Suppose he wants to have a knowledge about the feelings of that particular respondents, then he can always have it on a scale, that is agree, then strongly agree, then disagree, strongly disagree, none of them. So, when you have these kind of options and you have a scale of this, So agree means if you are strongly agreeing means from 1 to 5 what is your score. So up to 5 means you are very particular about agreeing. So in this way you can have a scale. So if you write agree, disagree, then from 1 to 7 you have the scale, and then what is that you agree and how much you disagree. So this we can have with the help of a scale of the feelings. Then the next one is the general rules of question crafting. So how do you craft a question? So the first one is the clear objective. So what is the main objective of the question? So whether it is to collect the feedback relating to a new product or whether it is the feedback relating to an existing product. So what is the exact objective of the questionnaire? That should be very clear. On that basis only you form the questionnaire. Then second one is simple language. So the language should be kept as simple as possible. Don't try to use some jargons or some professional or some technical terms which are not understood by the common man. Then next one is clear concepts. So whenever you are having a questions relating to any of the concepts, try to be as clear and precise as possible. Then question should be without bias. So don't have any bias while framing the questionnaire. Then next one is adequate answer options. So if it is a closed-ended questionnaire, try to see that you have proper answer options. Then last one is the shorter questions. Try to keep questions as short as possible. So in this way, you will be able to see that you have an ideal questionnaire. Then next one is the single question at a time. So when you are having a question, so one question at a time will be good. So instead of having one or two questions in one question, so better to have single question at a time. Then affirmative sentences. Now what are these affirmative sentences? That which affirm a particular thing. So this kind of affirmative sentences means you just have this affirmative sentence and at the end you just say yes or no. I like this product because it is helping me in my job. So the yes or no. So when you have such affirmative sentences, it will just improve the note of that particular questionnaire. Mathematics not imposed. Try to see that you don't have lot of mathematics in the questionnaire. That means you should not be making the questionnaire to just calculate there should not be any actual calculations in the questionnaire. Then short and clear reference periods. So for how long have been making use of this brand? So that will be a clear question. That is, you are just asking him about for how long he has been a brand loyal customer. Then avoid question reference. So if you are asking in the 31st question with reference to the third question or the fourth question, give the answer. So this kind of a questionnaire will not be entertained because the respondent has to move from third question to fourth question. From 31st question he has to go back and see and come. So such kind of a references should be avoided as far as possible. So these are all the characteristics of a good questionnaire. Then next one, here we will be having a deep explanation about all these things. So question without objective. So each question should have an objective. So what is the objective of the questionnaire? Suppose you have to it is an objective of collecting the census about the data about a particular population. Then what are the things that you need? So what is the name of the head of the family, and the address, then the age, then their income, then the number of people residing in that house. So whether they own a vehicle, whether they own any land holdings. So then all these things will have to be asked for. So based on the objective, you just frame the questions. The next one is the complex language. So the language of the questionnaire should not be complicated to understand. The vocabulary of the respondent should be used in the questionnaire. So the language of the questionnaire should not be complicated to understand. That is, it should be easily understood by the respondent, and the vocabulary also should be used in the questionnaire. The simple language is preferred. The use of rhetorical or elite language creates problems while the questionnaire is administered. So, try to use as simple language as possible, because if you are using some elite language, then the respondent may understand it in a different way. Third one is ambiguous concepts. Ambiguous concepts should not be incorporated in the questionnaire. Now, what are ambiguous concepts? Ambiguous concept means those concepts which are very vague. So, such concepts should not be introduced in the questionnaire. So, if it has to be asked, then try to see that you have a face-to-face interaction with the respondent. For example, what is your opinion about medical researchers that pledge for high prevalence of transmission of HIV among the elite group of Nepal after the restoration of the multi-parity system? Now, such kind of a questionnaire where there are three concepts involved here. This question has three major elements. What are the major elements? As a medical research, HIV transmission, as restoration of multi-parity democracy, and the elite group and high prevalence, other minor elements. So, there are three elements in this questionnaire, and the respondent will not be able to correctly form his or own opinion. So, whatever is the opinion he has to express, he has to give his opinion based on three elements in the questionnaire. So, try to avoid such questions. Then, reference of previous questions. So, it is extremely not suggested to ask the questions like, as I asked in question number 12 about. So, if you just start the question about giving reference to a previous question, the interviewer, the respondent will get confused. So, if reference or cue of previous question is required to recall the answer of the respondent by stating full questions to continue further interview. So, in case you have to have a reference, then better to just write the question in full and then ask the answers. So, instead of asking, go and refer that question and come back and answer, you can as well write the question again and ask the question. The longer and vague reference periods. So, reference period should be clear and preferably shorter. Longer reference periods causes recall lapse, and these errors mislead the research. So, try to have the reference periods which are very short. But if you are asking the respondent about some data which is something related to 10 years back or 15 years back, then there may be some memory loss, and as a result of which the information collected may be wrong and it will mislead the research. So, we all know that the research is always based on collection of proper facts. But if the facts are misleading, then the results of the result also will be misleading. Then next one is questions with calculations. As far as possible, avoid all calculation seeking questions. Respondents do hesitate to calculate, and there is also the possibility of receiving the wrong answers. So, whenever you have a questionnaire relating to calculation of questions, try to avoid it because they may be wrong answers. The respondents who cannot calculate also give wrong answers to hide their ignorance, and who can also have a tendency of wrong calculation to exhibit their confidence in calculation. So, as far as possible, the respondents who cannot calculate, they will try it in order to hide their ignorance, because they don't know how to calculate, they may give wrong answers, and those who know how to calculate, they also may give wrong answers to see that they have overconfidence in their calculations, because of which they may give the wrong answers. So, there are possibilities of this type when you just give questions with calculations. Then next one is, what percent of your income is spent on treatment? Instead use, what is your monthly income? So, what percent of your income is spent on treatment? So, again the respondent has to think of what is his income. Suppose his income is 30,000. Then, if he has spent around 3 to 4,000 on any of the health treatment, then he has to just calculate 4,000 by 30,000 into 100. Then whatever the amount comes, then he will have to write. So this will be quite a taxing on the respondent and he may not answer the question. Instead of that, you ask, what is your monthly income? So it is a straightforward question. What is your monthly income? So he will tell, how much do you spend on your treatment? So he will be able to write the straightforward answer to that. And calculation should be performed in data processing and analysis phase. So when you say that your monthly income is around 30,000, so this is the answer. And then to the next question you say, I spent 3,000 for health expenses. Then with the help of these figures, we will be able to say that 10% of the income is spent for health benefits. So this can be done in the process of analysis and data processing stage. We can make use of this calculation. So do not give strains to the respondents. The respondents should not be strained in any manner. So if you have any calculations of this sort, you try to ask the questions, collect the answers and do the calculations by yourself. Don't make the respondent do all the calculations. Then next one is double negative. Double negatives must be avoided in the language of the question. What is this double negative question? The double negative gives positive meaning but sounds like negation to the statement. It also creates confusion for the interviewers and the respondents. Now, for example, do you want to move from this place not to expose yourself? Do not you want to move. So you don't want to move in order to expose yourself. So this is the tone of the question. So instead of that, do you want to move from this place to hide? So be clear in your question. So in case you have to frame a question, try to frame it in such a way that it gives a clear message. So do you want to move from this place to hide? That would be a better option to this question. The next one is 2-in-1 questions. The merging of two questions into one should be completely avoided. So how do you do this? Such merging often confuses the respondent and according to the cognitive capacity, some of the respondents serve answers to the latter and some to the former. So you try to see that you have only one question at a time and don't try to merge two questions into one. So what happens is the respondent, he may answer the later part of the question or the former part of the question and one of the questions remains unanswered. Not all respondents provide answers to both the parts. The respondents may not answer both the questions. Then next one is leading and embarrassing questions. So leading and embarrassing questions should be biased. So what is this embarrassing question? So asking about the personal details of the respondent. So such embarrassing questions should be avoided. So the respondent may feel very shy to reply to such questions or he may not answer at all or he may not reply at all. So try to avoid embarrassing questions. People feel offensive to answer these questions. So they feel offended when somebody is asking these questions. So such questions also lead towards biased answers and they are to be avoided. So they should try to see that these questions, they lead to biased answers and as such they are to be avoided. So with this, we come to the end of this session. Hope you have all followed it. Thank you.